And this is a little known fact, I don't know if you guys knew this, but flushing it with the red heater hose line makes our AC more like a race system, so it's going to cool way better. Okay, so we do have to do something with those connectors that go in through the heater box, so I'm going to think about that. Black-orange is on the left, facing this way. Orange-black is on the right. This is a little more complicated. See, it goes yellow, red up top, black in the middle, orange on the bottom left, green, white on the bottom right. Oh, awesome! I just spilled AC oil all over myself. Gotta love it. Okay, we've got the connectors all pinned back up. Everything is through the heater box. Let's slide it in place and see if we can bolt it up. Here's a little trick for you guys if you don't know this already. If you need a socket to hold a bolt really solidly, then you just put a paper towel around the socket, shove the bolt on in, and there you go. Okay, now for the inside bolts. They're all bolted up. We lost that lower bolt, so we're not putting that in. But it feels pretty damn solid. Oh, I was wrong. You know, I don't know if you remember earlier, but I thought that this was a different fan. It's just that the rubber boot came out, so I'm going to put that in, and then we can get this installed. Oh yeah, and I got the pigtail for the low pressure sensor. Okay, so I think we're going to need to lengthen this heater hose. It's a little squishy anyways, so there's that. I think everything's hooked up. So let's go test our HVAC. Maybe I'll tighten these up just temporarily so we can turn it on, make sure the blend door operates as it should. Take the hammer out of the belt, that'd be good. Alright, I think we should be good to fire it up and test the HVAC. Okay, no fan blowing, run off. Whoa, gross, that's disgusting. Yeah, okay. Vent. The floor still doesn't work right for the heat, but that's fine because floor defrost works still, and straight defrost still works. That works. So that's inside. Oh, that is so gross. Okay. Alright, I think we can call that a win, except for our leaking heater core connections, which we have to replace anyways. I didn't get those very tight, but we need new hose anyways, so, and we're draining the coolant because our rad's leaking, so, in fact, that's going to be the next thing we do because we need to put our condenser in. The radiator does mount different than the pickups. The pickups like slot in, and there's a couple 10mm bolts on this side and on the other side that hold it in. This one has a few bolts holding it in, so hopefully we can still line up the condenser lines coming out of here. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. We've got our coolant draining out and it really looks quite good. Almost too good, like almost if it weren't diluted, but hard to say. So let's go ahead and pull our upper hose. We're gonna let it drip a little bit more before we pull the lower hose, because we all know even if you feel like you drained it all out, if you pull the lower hose, it's gonna spray all over you, so fun times. Alright, well, I don't really want to sit here and wait for it to drip for an hour, so I'm just gonna pull the lower hose and see what happens. Well, I mean, I know it's gonna happen, but we'll see how bad it is, or if it isn't. I don't think the hose clamp has a flathead spot on it. You have to use a socket. Hardly any. So that petcock did better than expected. Alright, now we need to pull our fan shroud off of the radiator. And now for the actual mounting bolts of the radiator. I should have mentioned the shroud bolts were 5/16. These ones, I'm guessing, are going to be 3. 10mm, because why not? These are the bolts I'm talking about, by the way. Whew. Heavier than it looks. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the story in this truck is it actually was a farm truck for a cattle ranch, and there you go, cow crap all over it. Makes sense with the story. So you can see the corrosion here. We were leaking out of the lower tank on the back side, which was the front when it was in the truck. So there's that one out. Do have the new radiator, but you got cow crap on that cross member, the rad support, so we'll take that out before we get it back together for good. But even before that, we need to figure out our AC condenser. I got a condenser from the junkyard. I think it was out of an F-150, so I don't know if it's going to bolt up here. The rad mount on the F-150 is different than it is on here, so we'll see. Let's go grab it and try just test fitting it. Worst case, I return this and we find one online that's new, that's actually made to fit. Okay, so it has the lower mounts. Okay, so this is not going to fit with that modification, which I don't really want to do due to the way, well, due to the fact that the lines that are interfering, not the actual condenser. Let me do some looking and see how expensive they are new. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put a new one in anyways, since we're, you know, making a new system basically. Alright, so this is probably just the next jump cut for you guys, but for me, it's been quite a while scrounging up parts for this thing. The compressor was not easy to find. I was able to find it though. You see we got the V-belt compressor, brand new. We got all the lines, which are actually really easy to find off Rock Auto. But I realized that these lines have a thread on the end, and the compressor has this weird setup. And you actually need manifolds that convert it over to the thread. Now, when you're replacing a compressor, they expect you to just take the manifolds off your old compressor, which obviously we don't have. If you had a donor truck, which would be the ideal setup, then you could just grab those, but we don't have that. So now we have these. I was able to find them off eBay. It was really hard to find these. Apparently John Deere tractors also use these. I'll try to throw everything in the description if on some off chance you're also trying to add AC to a non-AC diesel Ford pickup with a V-belt setup. So let's just make sure that the threads here are going to match our AC lines. Seems to fit good on there. It's looking good. Okay, so our, what line is this? Discharge line, I believe. Looks like it fits nicely. So that's a win there. Now the other line, which I believe is the suction line, it fits too. So that was really my last worry on this whole setup, because there's not a lot of info on these things online. But I was able to track it down using the service manual and all that. One annoying thing I noticed on all these lines is, for some reason, they have the R12 fittings on them, which, I mean, whatever, I guess they're made in the original style, but it just seems kind of weird to me. So we're gonna have to get our 134A retrofit caps. And also, one kind of funky thing is, I don't know if the original Ford setup had this, but there's like a, I think this is an overpressure release valve. Yeah. So that screws on here. We could also probably just plug her up, but I mean, it has it, might as well throw it on there. If it causes us issues, we can take it off. So the last piece to the puzzle is the V-belt AC compressor bracket, and it actually holds the power steering pump on too. Now you can't find that new anywhere, obviously. Luckily I got really lucky. Luckily, I was able to find it on the oil burners forum. There's a nice guy on there who helped me out. So that is currently in transit. But before we even get that, we can hook up all of our lines, I think. We'll just leave this dangling, and then we can bolt it on whenever we're ready. So let's do that. Last thing, actually, the air compressor, I was able to find it in a kit. Came with the accumulator / receiver dryer, a bunch of PAG oil, which this is actually mineral oil, so that's not going to help us out. That's weird that they give us that, because mineral oil is not compatible with R12 or with R134A. So we'll be tossing that. Well, we'll keep it. But then we have our expansion valve. And I believe this is a flush. Yes, it is. So it probably would not be a bad idea to flush our AC, since we're reusing the evaporator and condenser. Before we get too far, we're going to remove our old receiver dryer / accumulator and orifice tube. And we're going to start off by taking off this hard line, which we actually have a new one of. So we're going to remove this like retaining clip. Probably going to need a screwdriver for it. And then we're going to need some of these fuel line / AC line removal tools. They're like $2 or something at Harbor Freight or any auto parts store, and then we're going to take the line off and get replacing. Okay, hopefully I was not blocking that, but you see inside of here, there's a little spring. Basically, this one was a 1/2 inch, it looks like, so you just slide it over there, you push it up into the spring, and it should release up and out. Sometimes it can kind of be a pain, but that one came out pretty easy. And then our orifice tube actually sits inside that evaporator line, so we're going to need to grab some long needle nose pliers to grab it out. Not quite long enough. Let's see if we can get it with a pick. The answer is no. Yeah, we're really going to need long, thin needle nose, or I guess if I can get 2 picks that'll fit, we can kind of wedge it up and grab it. But I was able to get it up and out just with some pick work. There we go. Little sloogey. Gross. Looks like something happened. I wonder if because if you remember, I took this evaporator out of, I think it was a 90 F-150, and obviously that's in our 12 system from the factory. I wonder if it was retrofitted and they didn't remove the mineral oil. Maybe that caused issues with the seals or something in the compressor. I don't know. But we have a new one, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so now we just need to remove the receiver dryer / accumulator. That sucker was tight. Okay. Now we just need to remove this support right here. Looks like maybe an 8mm. Yeah, 5/16. Okay, our new receiver dryer is just a touch different. It's not going to affect us at all. You can see the outlet's pretty much at the same place. So we're good to go there. But before we start putting anything new on, we need to flush the evaporator. Alright, so flush time. I've got a heater hose line hooked up to, I believe, what was before the inlet of the evaporator. We've got that going into our sody pop bottle. And this is a little known fact, I don't know if you guys knew this, but flushing it with the red heater hose line makes our AC more like a race system, so it's going to cool way better. So I rented this flush kit from O'Reilly. It's literally just a can that you put fluid in, you hook the air, you hook the compressed air up here, and it sucks it out and blows it into the AC system. Not much to it. Whoops. See, it's just like a siphon gun. So we're going to fill up the bottle, I don't know, maybe 1/3 of the way up with some of that flush stuff and get flushing. Alrighty, we've got our bottle filled. Got the air hooked up here. Looks like we got a small leak in the fitting, but that's okay. So now we'll just open up the air. We'll compress the bottle. There we go. And we're going to hold that ended the blow gun up to the what was the outlet of the evaporator, and we're going to back flush it with this solvent. Oh, I just realized a fatal mistake. When you set this up, make sure you have a pressure relief on the soda bottle or whatever vessel you are flushing into. In case you can see, it just pressurized that bottle and blew back all over me, so fun. I'm gonna grab a knife, poke a hole in there. Pressure relief is officially cut. Give her another go. Oh yeah. Looks like we may be out of, yeah, we're out of our solvent, so close that, release the pressure, and give her a refill. Alright, there we go. Okay, you can see the stuff coming out now is clear, so we're gonna flip around and flush the other way. Okay, here we go. Dang, yeah, we burned through it. This stuff is volatile. It evaporates quick. Okay, well, we're gonna switch over to mineral spirits since I'm out of the fancy stuff that the kit came with. Okay. Everything's coming out clear on the evaporator, so we're gonna call it good. I'm glad we did that, because look how nasty that stuff is. Gross. I also see metal sparklies in there, so very good that we flushed this. That would have been bad for our compressor. Okay, let's do the condenser now, and actually I'll talk a little bit about that before we do it. So the big thing to be aware of when flushing condensers is that sometimes you can't actually flush them. So newer cars use a different type of condenser than older vehicles. You see this is kind of like a radiator where you have tubes and fins. Newer style condensers are like a serpentine setup, I think is what it's called. It's got a very small square opening, and it runs this way, that way, and it just is a big snake all the way around. The tube and fin, they aren't as efficient, but you can flush them. The serpentine type you cannot flush, you have to replace. So we're gonna flush this one and see what comes out. Okay, it's coming out nice and clear now. Let's switch sides. Now I'm just blowing lots of air through, cleaning it out. Okay, the condenser does not seem like it was as bad as the evaporator. This fluid's not nearly as bad. Not very many floaties either, but we got all the oil out, the old oil, so that's good. This condenser was from an R134A car, or truck too. So the older style R14, I think, they work a little bit less efficiently with R134A, just because the R14 has a higher heat capacity basically. So anyways, all that being said, it's flushed. Both are flushed. We're gonna blow them out real good and then start assembling. Okay, time for the new accumulator slash receiver dryer, whatever. So here it is. Probably gonna be pressurized when I take this cap off. No? Okay. Sometimes they come pressurized, but this one was just capped. Oh no, it was a little bit pressurized. It had this rubber plug. Okay. Now, whenever you're servicing AC parts and you take stuff off, you do want to replace this just because you introduce air in the system, and this has like a desiccant inside that sucks all the moisture out. I mean, you should also be vacuuming it down before you do anything, which we'll get into all that. But you also want to replace all your O-rings. So here's one. So we're going to slide it over our line over here. And I'm going to grab a little bit of PAG oil so that we can lubricate it with. Remember, always lube up your O-rings before you stick them in. Huh, we are hitting the fan resistor. That's not going to work. Need to look into that. Okay, well I think I messed up here. That evaporator box is actually from a 94 Plus truck, so it takes a different style accumulator, because you can see the accumulator was hitting that connector. I didn't think the heater boxes were different at all, but I mean, it's hidden, so it must be. But the problem is our lines are going to require one of the older style accumulators, because you can see where that inlet is. The R134A one is right there, so it's not going to do that. So, I mean, we're going to have to see, maybe I can bend the line a little bit and get it shoot, I'm probably going to have to go back to the yard and get a gosh dang 93 and below heater box. Fun. One small thing I did take care of, I sold that orange box that was over there and moved the diamond plate box over here. That way we have a whole flatbed now. So, go ahead and mark that off the list. One more thing taken care of. Okay, well, luckily the junkyard has free exchange, so we just need to pull this one, and we can take it back and get what we need. I'm glad I left that one bolt down there out, because that would be a pain. Although I was thinking, and if you remove the inner fender, or even just fold it out of the way, it's probably really easy to get to. So we may end up doing that at the junkyard, and we'll decide if we want to put it back in once we get it back. But we gotta start off by taking this one out. Now for the bolt on the inside. Awesome. Now, there's a way we can take the whole wiring harness with this, and it's gonna greatly simplify our whole wiring process. Not that it was ever really complicated. So if you remember, we spent quite a while troubleshooting why we weren't getting power to the compressor clutch connector, and that's because this light green purple wire comes from the heater controls and triggers the compressor clutch through the low pressure sensor, and we're missing that wire that goes to the low pressure sensor and then afterwards to the compressor clutch. So when I initially put our evaporator box in, I depinned all the connectors up under the hood and brought the evaporator box out without them. It's simpler if we just take this connector apart, which I may need 2 hands for. And then we're also going to have to disconnect a couple vacuum lines that come in, I believe. These ones. So we'll have to see where those come in. Oh, here, right here. So we just disconnect those. Yep, there's the connector. I'm going to need 2 hands for this, so I'll bring you guys back once I have them disconnected. And then when we take the box from the junkyard, we'll just leave all the wiring in place and everything will be good to go. Both the vacuum and the electrical connections are undone inside the cab, so let's pull it out. I'm hoping we don't have to disconnect the heater hoses, but we did last time, so I don't have high hopes. Yep. Okay. Well, we're just gonna spill a bunch of coolant. Whatever. And here it goes. Okay, that wasn't too bad. And you can see here's our connectors. We're in the junkyard. I'm not gonna bring you guys with, I don't think, because I just want to get it over with. So we'll be back once we have the new stuff. Alrighty, we got a good haul at the junkyard. Got everything we needed, the wiring harness and everything. I believe that'll plug into our connector. Let's see. Well, you can see it's the older style accumulator receiver dryer that we need. So it's good. It's a little dusty. One unfortunate thing, all of the foam tape stuck to the truck, I guess. But I just got some new stuff. We'll tape her on. Maybe we'll give her a quick wash down to get some of this filth off. Alright, good enough for the girls we go with. I just wanted the heavy filth off, which it is. Yeah, maybe I'll hit right there.